I'm going to talk about business partnerships, and I'm going to share an experience, a personal experience that taught me valuable lessons about business partnerships. Before considering a partnership, there are some proactive steps that you need to take to protect yourself and your business. You don't just get into a business partnership. You need to be very careful. So a while ago, I had this business, and my husband and I decided to sell it off because of a number of issues. So somebody came along and offered to get into a partnership with us. It looked very good. It looked very promising. They looked like they were decent people. And so we agreed to actually get into a partnership with them. They had valid documents and everything seemed right. Okay. So they were supposed to be running the company while we sat back. Okay. It was basically myself and this man's wife. And because my husband wasn't running the business, he's always there. He's a silent partner. Let me call him a silent partner. So we got to do some agreements, and we started off. Unfortunately, this did not go so well. It didn't go well at all. I'm not going to get into the details, but what I want to share is the issue of getting into a partnership with people that look like they have something to offer. At the end of the day, we ended up with a lawsuit. It wasn't pretty, I can tell you that. We were dragged through the mud, that's what I can say. We paid a lot of money because now we had to find a lawyer. But finally, the case came to an end, and it was in my favor. I'll say in my favor. Like I said, my husband is a silent partner. And it was such a relief that the case came to an end. Now, you don't have to get to that point where you end up in court. We didn't get to court, but we ended up dealing with lawyers. It was their lawyer, it was our lawyer, and it was quite an expense there. So I'm just going to share some pointers that you might want to look at before you get into a business partnership. I must confess that during that time, I did not do my due diligence. But it's very important for you to make sure that all due diligence is done on any person. It doesn't matter who they are. You just need to do certain, you need to follow certain steps. So like I said, it is very crucial for you to take some proactive steps. You need to ensure that you protect yourself and your business. I'm going to give you a few pointers that you can look at. For instance, you need to have shared values. You and your future or potential partner need to have shared values. What kind of values? Do they align with each other? Do they align with your goals? So that is one of them. Don't just rush into a partnership because it's going to cost you. Do you share the same values? Are they aligned to your goals? Secondly, it's about clear roles and responsibilities. Define the roles, define the responsibilities. Make sure each one of you knows what is going to, you know what you're going to be doing. Outline everything. Write it down. Sign the document. So you need to ensure that you have clearly defined your roles and responsibilities. Thirdly, it's about financial transparency. Discuss financial contributions, profit sharing, and how expenses are going to be managed. Open financial communication is vital in a business partnership. And lastly, it's the legal partnership agreement. Draft a comprehensive agreement detailing the terms of the partnership, including dispute resolution mechanisms and exit strategies. So understanding advantages and disadvantages of business partnerships is very essential. Two such advantages would be that you may have expertise, you can bring expertise to the table, and that would be combined expertise that I'm talking about. So if you have gained some knowledge somewhere else and your partner is bringing in their kind of knowledge, you're going to have a very rich combined expertise within your business. Another one is shared financial burden. So can you imagine sourcing resources? So a lot of reasons why people get into partnerships is because they want to or they lack finances. Let me make it short. They lack finances. So if you get into a partnership, two such advantages would be combined shared experience or combined shared expertise and sharing the financial burden. Those would be the only two advantages I can talk about right now. There might be more, but I want to just stick to these two. So two disadvantages I would like to give you would be shared liability and potential for conflict. Potential for conflict. So when we talk about shared liability, it is when a company is in trouble. As a partner, you are liable. So you are both at risk, or if you are there's five of you, you are all at risk. You have to share the liability. That's what we mean when we talk about shared liability. And potential for conflicts, it simply means you may have different management styles. So if I really work hard the way I know myself, sometimes I can be a workaholic, and my partner doesn't work the way I want them to work. If they're not bringing in anything into the business, then that is potential for conflict. So when you are getting into a partnership, you must look at the advantages, of course, but also look at the disadvantages. So see, advantages might outweigh disadvantages and vice versa, but you should look at this. Do not ignore, this part when getting into a partnership. So earlier when I started with the video, I mentioned I was going to share some lessons that I learned. And what I can tell you from my experience of business partnerships, what was really a lesson for me there, it was due diligence. That is what I can tell you about. Looking back, I did not conduct my due diligence well. Had I done that, I would have really saved myself from a lot of trouble. And it wasn't due diligence on the financial side because they were capable. It was more on the operational and also the legal part of it. So if I had really done thorough due diligence, I would have known that they had gotten into a lot of contracts which they never honored. I would have known that they got into other partnerships which they did not honor. And because afterwards there were a lot of stories that came through. And I remember somebody I met at church telling me, oh, so you guys were in partnership with these guys and all. It was very embarrassing for us because it looked like it was my husband and I who were at fault. But thank God, the way God works. When everything came to the surface, we later realized that this person wasn't actually trustworthy. Okay, they were not trustworthy. So anyway, we thank God that in that experience, we learned that should we ever get into another partnership, which I doubt I will, I'm very reluctant about getting into partnership, but it's a story for another day. But just from that experience, it was a painful experience. So the due diligence is very important. Do not skip that. That is one major lesson I can give you. One major lesson I came out with from that experience. It was the due diligence. So really, I cannot emphasize enough just how important due diligence is. So should you proceed, or should you decide to proceed to get into a business partnership, consider these steps that I'm going to give you. I'll give you 3 steps that you must consider. Conduct due diligence. That's the first one. This is very important. Do a research about your potential partner. Find out about their business. What have they been up to? What have they been doing? Do they know what they're doing? Do they start and stop? Also, make sure to find out their financial stability. You do not want to enter into an agreement with somebody who is financially unstable. It's going to be such a problem. Number 2, start small. Okay, so somebody might say we're going to go flat out. If you've done your due diligence and you feel you can just get into a partnership at a certain level, at a higher level, that's what I'm talking about, that is perfect. But when you are not sure, you are especially a startup, you've just started your venture, start small. Take the baby steps, learn, And then lastly, that's the 3rd point, make sure you have open communication. Talk about your goals, talk about your vision, Openly speak about your expectations. These are the things that you should do should you decide to get into a business partnership. Do not just feel, oh, she's driving a big car, he's driving a big car, they're wearing a nice suit. That is not what you look at. You have to do your due diligence. Due diligence is very important. So on this list of steps that you need to follow, for me, due diligence is the most important part. Then the other things, yes, I can take a chance, but due diligence is important. So remember, while partnerships may come with certain benefits, it's also good to remember that they may come with risks. So before you get into one, just make sure you are ready, do your thorough research, and then get into that partnership. Prepare thoroughly before you step into a business partnership. All right. So you have listened, you have heard what business partnerships are like. If you found this information to be helpful, kindly like, share, or subscribe to the group for more insights as you navigate into the business world. Have a blessed day.